Hand signal. This must be a stuff. It says you read all these. Good morning.
But make sure you give me a time check.
I'll give you a time check urgently.
Yeah. But okay.
Okay, Isha, back.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Randy. Okay. Thanks, man in the pink shirt, because he showed me how to revive the presentation. Yeah. Thanks everyone for being here to Western Day History, from Enheduanna to the Fab Five. Okay. Yeah. Gay and lesbian people have had a very long history in the world, and as well, Sheila's likely in some way to be pointing out, I'd like to stress that we've existed in every civilization, in every community, from the dawn of time. And like Mesolithic cave paintings have been found, over 12,000 years old, depicting what we do in our bedrooms. In fact, history's first recorded author was a lesbian. In ancient Sumer, over 6,000 years ago, the priestess Enheduanna left behind a tablet in which she describes the goddess Enheduanna in adoring, erotic terms. I mean, this is the first piece of writing we have in the world with a name attached to it. And in ancient Egypt, over 3,000 years ago, the pharaoh Akhenaten shared the throne with his gay lover Smenkare. And his reign is actually still remembered as an Egyptian renaissance, with distinctive lifelike portraits, and this new turn towards worshipping the sun instead of the animal-headed gods. This, in fact, people have seen that as a kind of proto-monotheism. Okay, but yeah, first, let's back up to this. Okay. First, introductions today. My name is Anisha, and yeah, I'm not an expert on Western gay history. In fact, many people in the room probably know more than I do about it. But at last year's talk, we had Chinese gay history, we had Indian gay history, we had some Malay gay history enclosed in the talk on movies. Huh?
No Malay gay history.
The Indonesian.
No, Russell just mentioned it in passing.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear about that.
Yeah, but so I just wanted, I don't know enough about that, so I figured I'd just talk about what I know, the Western stuff. And but you've got to realize that a lot of what we survey in the past is pretty speculative. So, like, we don't really know if Enheduanna slept with women, or if she was really a really imaginative writer. We don't know if, that some people have claimed that, Akhenaten's boyfriend was actually, his wife Nefertiti in male drag. Like, so, even though that's already pretty clear, we don't know. And like, when this tomb got uncovered, of like two royal hairdressers in loving embrace that's usually reserved for husband and wife, some archaeologists said, well, these guys aren't gay. They're probably Siamese twins. And for all we know, they could be right. I don't know. Oh yeah, I'd just like to make a note on the dating system I'm using. BCE stands for before the Common Era, and CE stands for the Common Era. These are more PC terms than BC, before Christ, and AD, Anno Domini, Year of our Lord. And the little C stands for, like over here, over there, that stands for circa, which means around them. So, but let's go back. Let's go to the birthplace of Western philosophy, science, and gay identity, ancient Greece. The famous gay guy that we think about in connection with ancient Greece is, of course, the philosopher Socrates. One of Socrates' big ideas was that it was through love, through the appreciation of beauty, that people could grow towards the love of knowledge and wisdom. And, of course, the highest kind of love would be between men. Because, women just were too stupid and uneducated to really communicate ideas to you. So this is actually discussed in a text called the Symposium, which is basically set up as a bunch of ancient Greek men gathering together for a banquet and flirting with each other while they discuss ideas. And so, in those days, sex was seen as a stimulant rather than a distraction to your studies. Socrates wasn't actually alone in his preference for men. In fact, men is not accurate. It's more accurate to say he was interested in boys, often from the ages of 14 to 17. This was called the Greek tradition of pederastia, and which involved a much older man, the ergaster, and a younger man called the eramenos. An older man would be his lover and his teacher, The Greek academies tended not to pass from father to son, but from lover to lover, as the older lovers passed to younger lovers, and the younger lovers got older. And this wasn't unusual. It was an accepted practice of Greek aristocracy. And of course, the older men would be married to women. It was this totally different experience of homosexuality. For a few other examples of how it was different, small penises were preferred to big ones. Interfemoral sex was the norm. Anyone know what interfemoral sex is?
Between the thighs.
And young men were not expected to enjoy the sex, because they'd be, there aren't that many nerve endings in the thighs. We know where the nerve endings are, don't we, girls? In the symposium, there's actually one reference to women as to women who love women as the children of the earth. And so there actually was this understanding of what they were called triplets. A popular term which was before the 19th century for lesbian. The term lesbian was actually only formed in the 19th century. And of course the term lesbian came from the birthplace of the poetess Sappho. And Sappho was very unusual because in a time when so many women were uneducated, she was seen as one of the greatest Greek poets, studied by everyone who wanted to be seen as sophisticated. We know very little about her life. She was exiled from Lesbos for some reason. She wrote several love poems to women. It's said that she started an academy for other young women to study under her. A lot of her poems are about groups of young women, so she may have been surveying that. And there's actually a legend that she threw herself off a cliff for the love of a man, which is kind of deflating. But there's not much evidence for either of those stories. And, a lot of people say, another legend is that her poems were burned by the early Christians. And the 9 volumes of her work that she was said to have written, now we've only got bits and pieces of them. Actually, it turns out that legend isn't true. That happened to pretty much all the great poets of the Greeks. But so we've only got these fragments. Only 4 complete poems by Sappho have remained. One of them was only just uncovered from the wrappings of a mummy, because mummies were wrapped in paper, and sometimes they recycled the paper for books. So, Sappho is from the word, the name of Sappho, we've got the name Sapphis, which can mean lesbian, as I'm sure a lot of you know. And I don't want you to think that the Greeks only saw, homosexuality in terms of artsy affairs like poetry and philosophy, because having a gay lover was also supposed to inspire you towards acts of heroism. Like Alexander the Great, the Macedonian conqueror, who tried to unite southern Europe and even part of India under an empire of Greek culture. He was known to have male lovers, including his great childhood friend and lover Hephaestion. Harmodius and Aristogeiton were renowned as the heroes of Athens for freeing the city of the tyrant Pisistratus. And the sacred band of Thebes was an army of 300 men, 150 pairs of male lovers, who fought beside each other and formed the city of Thebes' best defense against Sparta when it was under threat of invasion. The philosopher Plutarch actually had this first idea, that if a man was fighting beside his lover, then he'd be extra brave, he'd be extra daring, because he wouldn't want to see us sway. And it turned out like, you'd think this wouldn't work, but it did. It defeated Sparta, and they only fell to the armies of Alexander the Great when he came to conquer their lands. And when all the other Theban troops fled, they stood alone to fight them to the death. And the statues still mark the field where they were all buried together. Now, I spent all this time talking about ancient Greece because it's really where gay people in Europe looked to for this period of acceptance and celebration of their culture in the past. And it's arguable that things kind of went downhill from